it.
My dear boy, do you ask a fish how it swims?
No.
Or a bird how it flies?
No.
No, sirree, you don't. They do it because they were born to do it. Just like Willy Wonka was born to be a candy man.
For millions of viewers, Willy Wonka's factory felt like the most magical place a child could enter. Behind those gates, almost nothing was as sweet or simple as it looked. Even its sweetest memories were built from some very strange realities behind the painted surfaces. The chocolate river was cold and unpleasant. Gene Wilder refused to play Wonka unless his first entrance could deceive the audience. And the entire movie began as part of a candy campaign whose central product could not survive. The candy disappeared. The movie became immortal. Here are 15 weird facts you probably never knew about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Number 15. The chocolate river was the last thing anyone wanted to drink. The chocolate room looked edible. The river was anything but. Some parts of Harper Goff's enormous set really could be eaten. Marzipan was available. Certain leaves and decorative sweets were real. Gene Wilder could even bite into Wonka's flower-shaped cup, although the prop itself was made of wax. He chewed it for the camera, then spat it out after the take. Around those edible details were plastic candy, painted scenery, and one especially unappetizing river. The production used colored water, chocolate powder, and other ingredients to give it a thicker appearance. Cast members later remembered it as cold, dirty, and foul-smelling. Chemicals were eventually added to control the odor, but no one mistook it for something they wanted to taste. Michael Bollner, playing Augustus Gloop, had the worst assignment. He had to enter that water in a heavy costume and act as though he had fallen into a child's dream. On screen, the river looks rich enough to drink by the bucket. On set, it was an uncomfortable pool built to fool the eye. The river did not need to taste like chocolate. It only needed to make an entire generation wish it did. Number 14. Wonka's entire office was cut in half. When Charlie and Grandpa Joe reach Wonka's private office, the tour seems to be over. Then the furniture starts looking wrong. The desk is only half a desk. The chair is cut down the middle. The clock, filing cabinets, pictures, and other objects appear to have been sliced in two. Director Mel Stewart had first imagined a more conventional office, but after the chocolate room, the inventing room, and the tunnel, he could not accept ending the journey in an ordinary workplace. So production designer Harper Goff and the construction crew turned the room into one final visual joke. The strange design also makes Charlie's confrontation with Wonka feel less secure. Wonka sits behind half a desk while announcing that Charlie has lost everything. Nothing in the room looks complete, and the boy still does not know whether the contest is truly finished. Whether intentional or not, the unfinished office mirrors an unfinished test. Only when Charlie returns the gobstopper does Wonka reveal the other half of the truth. The room is never explained. It simply waits for viewers to notice that even at the end of the tour, Wonka refuses to give them anything whole. Number 13. Charlie's hometown was really Munich. The movie never clearly identifies the country where Charlie Bucket lives. The language is English. The streets look European. The money and costumes seem to belong to a storybook rather than one precise place. Most of those streets were in Munich, West Germany. The production filmed around the city and at Bavaria Studios. Lower costs helped, but Germany also offered the space the movie needed, along with old streets, unusual interiors, and industrial buildings that could be reshaped into Wonka's world. The exterior of the factory came from the abandoned Munich gasworks, redesigned by Harper Goff. Other corners of the city supplied Charlie's route home, the market, and the shadowy spaces surrounding the factory gates. Mel Stewart later explained that he did not want the location to be easily identifiable. Munich gave him a mixture of familiarity and distance. The city looked real enough to support Charlie's poverty, yet strange enough to suggest that a secret factory might stand just beyond the next wall. That uncertainty became part of the film's atmosphere. Charlie's neighborhood feels British in one scene, German in another, and completely invented in the next. His hometown belonged nowhere in particular. That allowed children almost anywhere to imagine that Wonka's factory might be closer than they thought. Number 12. Most of the children saw the chocolate room for the first time on camera. The first sight of the chocolate room had to feel enormous. Mel Stewart knew that rehearsing the children inside it could weaken the moment, so the young actors were largely kept away while Harper Goff's crew completed the set. When the small door opened and they entered, much of their amazement was genuine. The room was not a painted background waiting to be completed later. It was a full, practical environment with a river, trees, oversized mushrooms, bridges, candy shapes, and enough open space for the children to scatter in every direction. Paris Themin, who played Mike TV, later remembered the set as something like a private Disneyland. He also recalled that his surprise was real, even if the finished film may have used a later take. Julie Dawn Cole had already broken the spell. Before instructions went out to keep the children away, the actress playing Veruca Salt managed to enter the room early. She later remembered having a small picnic near the river. That makes her performance even funnier. While the others rush forward as though they have discovered a new world, Veruca moves with the confidence of someone who has already inspected the property. The children were supposed to look overwhelmed. Most of them did not have to pretend. Number 11. Veruca's father bought thousands of wooden chocolate bars. Inside Mr. Salt's peanut factory, ordinary work has stopped. Rows of employees tear open Wonka bars while searching for the golden ticket Veruca has demanded. It is one of the movie's sharpest images of wealth, turning a child's wish into an industrial command. But using real chocolate would have created a production headache. The bars had to be opened in large numbers. Real candy would have been expensive, messy under studio lights, and difficult to replace for another take. So many of the wrapped bars were blocks of wood. They looked convincing, stayed firm, and could be handled repeatedly without melting. The workers could keep tearing through packages without leaving ruined chocolate across the floor. The heading may sound exaggerated, but the scene itself required the illusion of thousands. The camera only needed enough wooden bars to make Veruca's search feel endless. The choice produced a wonderful irony. On screen, fake Wonka bars worked perfectly. They looked like a real product and survived everything the scene demanded. Outside the movie, the genuine candy planned around the film would prove far less reliable. The wooden bars did their job. The commercial product was still waiting for its own golden ticket. Number 10. The Oompa-Loompas had to be completely reinvented. Before the Oompa-Loompas could sing a single warning, the filmmakers faced a serious adaptation problem. In the original edition of Roald Dahl's book, they were depicted as African pygmies brought to live and work inside Wonka's factory. By the time the film entered production, that imagery was being criticized for its racial and colonial implications. Mel Stewart decided the movie should not reproduce the characters that way. The filmmakers attempted to move them away from a depiction tied to a real ethnic group. Their orange faces, green hair, and white clothing made them fantasy figures belonging only to Wonka's world. The performers were recruited internationally, which created another challenge. They came from different countries and did not all share the same first language. Yet they had to move together, follow choreography, and appear as a perfectly organized factory chorus. The film also gave their appearances a repeating structure. A child ignored a warning. The factory carried that child away. Then the Oompa-Loompas arrived with the moral in musical form. That pattern was strange, funny, and slightly threatening. It transformed them from background workers into the film's recurring judges. The redesign did not erase every concern surrounding the characters. but it created the orange and green figures that viewers instantly recognize today. Number 9. The movie took Charlie's name off the title. Roald Dahl's book was called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The movie began under that working title as well. Before release, Charlie was removed from the marquee and Willy Wonka took his place. Studio publicity said the new title emphasized the story's eccentric central character. That was useful for marketing. Gene Wilder's Wonka was visually distinctive, and his name was also the one Quaker Oats hoped to place on candy. Mel Stuart later recalled that contemporary racial concerns were among the issues surrounding the decision. At the same time, the commercial tie-in strongly favored a title built around the Wonka name. The available record therefore points to several pressures rather than one simple explanation. The change altered the way the film was presented. Charlie remains the emotional viewpoint. He is the child whose hunger, hope, and honesty carry the story. But the title tells the audience that the factory owner is the great attraction. It also did something more practical. Charlie was the name of one boy. Wonka could identify a character, a factory, a movie, and an entire line of sweets. By moving Wonka to the front, the film helped turn a fictional surname into a brand before audiences even reached the candy counter. Number 8. Gene Wilder helped design Wonka before filming began. Gene Wilder began shaping Willy Wonka before he stepped onto the set. After seeing an early costume sketch, he wrote Mel Stuart a detailed letter suggesting changes. Wilder liked the velvet coat, but he wanted large pockets that could hold keys, notes, and unexpected objects. He preferred sand-colored trousers to the brighter choice in the sketch. He also wanted the top hat made slightly shorter. These were small adjustments with a clear purpose. Wilder wanted Wonka to look eccentric, but not careless. The character could dress as though he belonged to another era, yet every part of the outfit should still show taste and control. The finished costume achieves that balance. The purple coat is theatrical without becoming a clown suit. The hat adds height without hiding Wilder's face. The pockets make it believable that Wonka can produce whatever the tour requires at exactly the right moment. Before he speaks, the clothing already suggests a man who has designed his own image as carefully as he designed his factory. Wilder did not simply wear Wonka's costume. He helped build the visual language that made the character recognizable in silhouette. Number 7. The movie invented a fake Slugworth to test Charlie. Slugworth exists briefly in Dahl's book, but not as the shadowy figure who follows the golden ticket winners in the film. That recurring threat was created for the adaptation. After each child finds a ticket, a sinister man appears and offers a reward for an everlasting gobstopper. His presence suggests that someone outside the factory is watching the contest and preparing to steal Wonka's greatest secret. The filmmakers expanded Slugworth, the gobstopper, and other brief ideas from the book because the movie needed a stronger villain and a clearer test for Charlie. The final office scene reveals that the supposed spy is actually Wonka's employee, Mr. Wilkinson. The offer was a trap designed to discover which child would betray the factory. It is an unsettling arrangement. Wonka has secretly approached children and tempted them with industrial theft. But the device gives Charlie's victory a moral cause. He does not inherit the factory merely because chance placed a golden ticket in his hands. He wins because he returns the gobstopper when keeping it could have rewarded him. The movie turned an outside rival into a false villain. That invention allowed one quiet action on Wonka's desk to decide the entire contest. Number 6. Wilder would not play Wonka without the fake Limp. Wonka's first entrance was Gene Wilder's condition for accepting the role. The factory gates open and the mysterious candy maker appears with a cane. He limps slowly toward the waiting crowd. Then the cane catches in the pavement. Wonka continues forward. For an instant, he seems certain to fall. Instead, he rolls into a somersault and rises to applause. Wilder later explained that he wanted the moment because it would immediately destroy the audience's certainty about the character. Once Wonka used a physical weakness as part of a trick, no one could know when he was lying or telling the truth. Mel Stewart understood the idea. The entrance stayed. In less than a minute, it establishes Wonka as actor, magician, host, and possible danger. He can control a crowd before he has offered anyone a single piece of candy. The scene also changes every warning that follows. When Wonka tells a child not to touch something, is he trying to prevent disaster? Is he conducting a test? Or does he already know exactly what will happen? The questions begin at the gate. The first thing Wonka gives his guests is not candy, it is doubt. Number 5. The tunnel scene was designed to break the spell. The boat ride changes the movie's temperature in seconds. The bright factory disappears. Disturbing images flash across the tunnel walls. The passengers shout for the boat to stop while Wonka begins a rhythmic speech that grows faster and more intense. Stories have often claimed that the cast knew nothing about the scene and believed Gene Wilder had genuinely lost control. That version goes too far. The sequence was scripted and planned. The actors knew they were filming a frightening passage, but Wilder still made the moment difficult to predict. Peter Ostrum later remembered that Wilder did not always reveal how he would read a line or shape an expression. During the boat ride, that unpredictability gave the performance a real edge. Wonka does not comfort the passengers. He does not explain what they are seeing. He behaves like the only person on the boat who understands the destination, and perhaps the only one who is not afraid of it. The scene was not an accidental breakdown caught by the camera. It was a controlled sequence, made to feel as though control had vanished. After the tunnel, the factory can never seem completely safe again. Number 4. The movie's most famous song became a bigger hit for someone who wasn't in it. The Candyman enters the movie through Aubrey Woods, who plays the cheerful candy store owner Bill. Then the song left the film and found a much larger life on the radio. Sammy Davis Jr. recorded a cover with the Mike Curb congregation. In June of 1972, their version reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It remained there for 3 weeks. The recording became Davis's only number 1 single on that chart, even though he did not sing the song in the movie and did not play a character in it. That made the song one of the film's strangest commercial successes. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory had opened modestly, yet music written for its fictional candy world became the biggest pop hit of a celebrated entertainer's career. The contrast with pure imagination is revealing. Davis's Candyman conquered the charts. Gene Wilder's quieter song never needed the same chart history to become the melody most viewers associate with Wonka's factory. One became a major record, the other became the sound of the movie's memory. Number 3. Charlie Bucket made one movie, then became a veterinarian. Peter Ostrum was discovered through children's theater and chosen to play Charlie only shortly before filming began. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory became his first feature film. It was also his last. After production, Ostrum was offered the chance to continue acting. He chose not to follow the conventional child star path and returned to ordinary school life. A different interest gradually took over. His family had horses, and a local veterinarian made a strong impression on him. Ostrum eventually studied veterinary medicine and built a long career caring for large animals. For viewers, his disappearance from Hollywood added another layer to Charlie's image. There were no teenage sequels, no long resume of supporting roles, and no attempt to turn one famous performance into a permanent public identity. The boy who inherited Wonka's factory grew up far from movie studios. That does not make the role a regret. Ostrum has spoken warmly about the experience and the remarkable place the film earned in people's lives. But his path remained his own. In a story filled with children who always want more, Ostrum's quieter choice feels strangely appropriate. Number 2. Roald Dahl disliked the movie made from his own book. Roald Dahl did not stand outside the production from the beginning. He wrote an early version of the screenplay and received the film's writing credit, but the project changed as it moved toward production, and David Seltzer performed substantial rewriting without an on-screen credit. Dahl disliked the result. He objected to the film placing more emphasis on Willy Wonka and less on Charlie. He was unhappy with Gene Wilder's casting and with the musical tone. He also resisted changes that moved the adaptation away from the structure he had created. Some of those changes became essential to the movie audiences remember. The filmmakers enlarged Slugworth into a recurring false villain. They turned the everlasting gobstopper into a test of honesty. They added the final confrontation that allows Charlie to lose the prize, return the candy, and then discover what Wonka has really been measuring. Dahl saw Hollywood reshaping his story around an adult character he did not want at its center. Viewers saw Gene Wilder create the film's defining performance. His dissatisfaction also complicated hopes for a direct sequel with the same creative arrangement. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator was published, but this version of the story never continued on screen. The author did not embrace the adaptation. Soon, the product created to promote it would fail as well. Yet the movie survived both disappointments. Number 1. The candy bar failed, but the advertisement became a classic. The strangest fact about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory explains why the movie was made at all. Quaker Oats entered a financing agreement with producer David Wolper because the company wanted family entertainment and new merchandising opportunities. A story about the world's greatest fictional candy maker offered the perfect vehicle for a new chocolate product. The plan connected the film directly to the candy aisle. Quaker helped finance the production. The Wonka name moved into the title. Children would see golden tickets emerge from wrappers, then encounter Wonka candy in the real world. The movie itself became part of the product campaign, but the central product did not develop as planned. Accounts differ over the exact manufacturing difficulty and how far the original bar reached the market. What the record supports is that Quaker Oats could not establish the Wonka chocolate bar on the national scale it had intended. The company's larger film partnership with Wolper also failed to continue. The movie did not look like an immediate rescue. Its theatrical performance was moderate, reviews were mixed, and some critics disliked the songs that later became inseparable from it. Then the story moved into American living rooms. Television broadcasts allowed children who had missed the theatrical release to discover the factory. Families watched together. Repeated showings turned it into appointment television, and home video made the return trip easier. The qualities that seemed odd in 1971 became reasons to return. The handmade sets remained inviting. The darkness kept the sweetness from becoming harmless, and Gene Wilder offered something new as young viewers grew older. The candy company had wanted a commercial. What it created was a ritual. The original product failed. The advertisement outlived the plan. And decades later, viewers still wait for those factory gates to open. Even now, the invitation still feels personal. We know the tour is dangerous, and the rooms were built on sound stages. Yet when the crowd gathers outside those iron gates, part of us still hopes that Wonka will choose us next. Which moment from Willy Wonka stayed with you longest? The chocolate room, the tunnel, or Wonka's first entrance through the factory gates? Because once those gates opened, the factory never completely closed.